This is a generational heist for the Nuggets. Off-season trade rumors are swirling, and Denver is at the top of the list for one rising superstar. Let's get into it today on Nuggets Digest. What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Stuart Hicar, basketball fan, Colorado native, and just generally a good person, a good guy, the kind of guy who would hold the door for you, but not if you're too far away from it, so you have to do that little awkward run to make it to me by the door, just a solid dude. With that said, there is something I need to bring to your attention that is kind of worrying, and that's that only 6.6% of viewers are actually subscribed to this channel, which means 93.4% of you are missing out on the best gosh darn basketball analysis this side of the Continental Divide. So if you like what we do here at Nuggets Digest, please feel free to hit that subscribe and like button to stay up to date with your favorite Mile High team. Alrighty, so what are we talking about today? A big odds change that just hit the world. Essentially, there's a superstar on the trade market, which is a bit of a surprise right now, coming from New Orleans, the Pelicans. It was a guy who was definitely on the do not trade list until very, very recently, but it's starting to look as though the Pelicans are going to absolutely blow up their team in this offseason and try and start something new. So they're going to want to gather picks, they're going to want to cut big names, and the Nuggets might just be able to take advantage of that. Let's take a look at that headline. So this is coming from Bovada. They changed some of their statistics on who is the most likely to land Trey Murphy III in a trade from the Pelicans in this offseason. Now, Trey would be entering his rookie extension, I think 4 years for $112 million, something along those lines. And if you don't know who Trey Murphy III is, he is really a rising star, is the way I would put it. He got injured at the end of this season, but he was starting to put up some numbers that made him look like a legitimate number two, and one of the more confident guards in the league. Having watched the way he plays and a lot of his highlights, I love how long this dude is. He is long as hell. And when he's on the court, he just looks really smooth, and it's not a jarring longness. Sometimes I talk about tall guys like Chet Holmgren, who when you see them run, it really looks as though their body was never meant to travel at the speed it's traveling at. Not the case with Trey. He's got a huge vertical, really good finishing at the rim, and his three-point shooting when he's hot, he's really hot. Now, the question is, of course, going to be, how much is that injured arm going to affect him? It is his shooting arm. So that's something that obviously I think any team who's going to be looking at this trade is going to be looking into. But with any luck, it was an end of the season injury. He'll have the entire offseason to recuperate. And again, he was on the rise this last season. It was his fourth year in the NBA, if I'm not mistaken. And this was really easily his best season so far, which is great to see. One season after the other, always getting better. That's what you want to find in a young guy, someone taking step after step. Now, someone who hasn't necessarily done that from the Nuggets is MPJ, who would be on the trade block if this trade were to go through. Porter Jr. has a really large contract with us, and he hasn't exactly been as stable or as complimentary as we'd hoped he would be for the Nuggets. I think his job is definitely supposed to be a spot-up shooter, a guy who can pass or catch a pass from anywhere and make a jump shot. His jump shot is, and I'll keep saying it till the end of the world, it's the wettest in the NBA. It's so gorgeous. It looks so good. And yet, he doesn't have his own shot creation necessarily. There were a few bright spots this past year with that, but he just hasn't made the leap that we need considering his contract. Now, are there other guys on our team who have large contracts who I also feel like maybe need to be putting up a little bit more or a little more consistency? Absolutely. But MPJ is right in that sweet spot where he's got a big contract. We do want to move him, and other teams might think this is exactly the guy we need. We need that spot up catch and shoot guy who can absolutely hit it. And yeah, he was injured in the playoffs, which might hurt his trade stock just a little bit, which is why in this report for Trey Murphy III, Christian Braun is also mentioned as a possible deal sweetener to head to the Pelicans. Now, this I'm way more iffy on. Christian Braun actually has a lot of the same, I would say, pros as when it comes to Trey. A lot of great energy. He's young. He's been getting better season to season. And I think his defense is, especially since the playoffs, really, really impressive. And exactly the kind of thing that we need to make sure we have on our squad. So in my opinion, I would rather we lose maybe a Peyton Watson, Julian Strother, something like that along with MPJ as opposed to Christian Braun. I think he is really really a solid piece on the Nuggets that I would be sad to lose. But again, that's the kind of choices you have to make when you have a superstar available. Now, the only real issue is, like, does Trey want to come to Denver? Is that something that he'd be interested in? As well as, would we be sacrificing depth for this player? Which anybody who watched us in the playoffs knows that we don't have a lot of depth to sacrifice right now. And in fact, we need to deepen our bench a whole lot. And I do think new coach David Adelman is going to be running a deeper rotation like he did in the playoffs. But, it'll be next season before we really understand whether or not we've made enough moves to really make another push at the playoffs this coming year. But what does Trey Murphy III feel about Denver and Jokic and the opportunity to play alongside the great Serbian horse god himself? Let's see. Here you say, they've got the best player in the world. That's really why when you have the best player in the world, you always have a chance. That was him playing against Denver and mentioning Jokic, obviously. He actually had one of his best games of last season, 41 points against Denver last year. And he is, again, just a solid, long player, one of the more confident guards in the league, and could be a really solid number 2 on the court with Jamal, AG, Jokic. I think that is a solid lineup that I could be really excited about. These are just his stats from last season, and some of these, I think his three-point percentage is a little bit lower than in actuality. I think he's a really solid three-point shooter, especially, again, on the catch and shoot. So I think with someone like Jokic on your team, who is such a savant when it comes to the pass, that number definitely will have an opportunity to rise because he would be getting a lot more open shots off of a Jokic double, something like that. You find him in the corner, he's ready to go. But obviously, things aren't just going to change. Things aren't just going to suddenly happen. This is all up in the air as of right now, but it does look like it could be a possibility. Again, as we said, the Nuggets are currently the favorite team to pick him up, but it would mean sacrificing some of our depth, like Christian Braun, like MPJ. So the question really becomes, can we get Trey Murphy III as well as a couple of maybe defensive veterans or a couple of midway contracts, a Bruce Brown maybe coming back as well, because we need energy on the bench and we need scorers and we need guys who can get their own shot when Jokic isn't on the floor. And while Trey is a great addition, it doesn't exactly solve the problems that we saw in the playoffs this year. It does just give us another guy who feels really confident on the team as a scorer. So I'm never against a new confident scorer, but it also, again, doesn't really fix these problems. So we'll see. Again, the Nuggets need to find a new general manager before they make any huge moves like this. So be on the lookout for that news. Once that GM spot is filled, I think we are going to see a lot of movement from the Nuggets in this offseason. But that's just my opinion. What do you guys think? Do you think I should be traded to the Pelicans hellscape down there in New Orleans? Or do you think that I had great opinions and you agree with all of them? I don't know. They're very good takes. That's what I do. I'm a good take maker. Regardless, my name is Stuart Hicar. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been another perfect video. 10 out of 10. No complaints. No one will complain about this one. Until next time, go Nugs.